Rimuru is the most versatile character in the game. They are the only one who has a passive that works in the assist slot, making them effective for any team. Kaguya is a very good support and can also act as a tank. She can purge debuffs for herself and her team, as well as giving them buffs like attack and crit. She also has a revive skill and can allow your team to ignore death and stay alive a little longer. She's the best support in the game and she makes it viable to run only one healer. Yhwach is a little new, so it's hard to say for sure if he's better than the other two Chaos characters. What I can say is that his damage output is impressive. He has several different attack buffs, including a buff if any of your friendly units die and they are marked by his skill. He also lowers his target's attack and gives friendly units damage resistance. Gojo, or Satoru, has the unique ability where he won't take action. Instead, he attacks any enemy unit that attacks, heals, uses any ability, gets revived or anything else. He also grants damage resistance to friendly units and increased damage taken to enemy units. His kit disincentivizes the use of crowd control abilities like we'll see later on. But even without it he can deal big damage and can carry a sustain team. Orochi is the main carry on a curse team, one of the best teams in the game. Orochi drops a nuclear bomb on his opponents with his second attack, obliterating anything in his path. This attack does massive damage with an increasing multiplier and increases his crit rate. Orochi also has great sustain, transforming if his HP is low enough. This gives him increased damage reduction and life steal at the expense of his crit rate and some damage. Gilgamesh is very similar to Orochi in the sense that he can nuke his opponents. These two can be interchangeable in this tier list, so I would consider them tied. Gilgamesh's nuke works a little different as it can be capped off, but this shouldn't matter too much as the damage is still insane. In general, tank units aren't very good, especially for free-to-play players. But there are two exceptions, Sasuke and Thor, three including Rimuru. Sasuke is really good for a curse team and can purge crowd control effects, while Thor is a more self-sufficient tank and acts more like a meat shield. Inori is just behind Kaguya in terms of support. She's the main support for curse teams. She heals, gives crit, attack, defense, accuracy, damage resistance, grants a shield, and can curse all targets. Lelouch deals great damage but is outdamaged by both Orochi and Gilgamesh. Lelouch is good for focusing a single unit and taking them out. He forces your team to target the unit with the lowest HP and will attack again for the turn whenever they die. Belldandy and Madoka are both really good supports who can fit on most teams. Where these two really shine is with each other. Belldandy and Madoka are a really good pair for sustain teams but can fit on any team or perform well. Belldandy gives your team damage share, basically reducing damage by 1/5, and can purge debuffs. Madoka can revive and has very good healing. Makoto plays a vital role in most teams with her crowd control. She can allow you to win more fights and even fights against higher power opponents. She can stun, seal and increase the target's damage taken, making her quite possibly the most annoying character to deal with. I would put her higher on this list, but she's not 100% consistent with her CC. Iori, or Divine Power, is very good against crowd control teams as he will completely ignore those effects. His damage output is pretty high and can self-sustain. But he isn't higher on the list because most of his abilities aren't unique and can be put on talents or cores. Sesshomaru has a very versatile kit. He can take on a variety of roles and can fit in a lot of teams. He can take on the role of primary DPS with his ability to instantly kill a target under a certain HP, or can be a sub-support with his ability to heal all allies on takedown. I would consider Sesshomaru a top priority for free-to-play players as he can hard carry. But if you really want to maximize your team, I would focus on pulling Orochi or Gilgamesh with faction coins and getting lucky with Sesshomaru from draw. These next three can really go in any order, with the only difference be which one you like more or can pull more of. I would put Goku first, then Kurumi and lastly Atoria. All three of these can carry the DPS of a team if built right. Atoria is the most free-to-play friendly, being very easy to get. Kurumi is easy to get as well, but has less free copies given to the player. Goku is similar to Sesshomaru in terms of difficulty to pull, but is a really strong option for curse teams. Toka gives herself a bunch unpurgeable buffs and deals more damage to tank and support units. Her damage output is great but not good enough to be higher on the list. She can be a great secondary damage for Gilgamesh or Orochi. Death plays the same role as Makoto, which is crowd control. She lowers the speed of all targets and can cause bind. This makes her almost as annoying as Makoto. And even more annoying if you have both on the same team. Hades can be up there with the other DPS carries like Goku, Kurumi and Artoria. During his second turn he deals massive damage. But I feel like he doesn't do enough outside of this turn for him to be higher on the list. Ainzul Gaon is a great unit, but he's as rare as other 100 cost units and he is just not comparable to them. He's a great choice for curse teams as he can explode curse early and increase that damage. His damage can be alright too. Ishtar is in the same situation as Ainz, where she's just too expensive. Ishtar can buff a warrior team by a good amount and deal good damage herself. Asuna and Mikasa can be good DPS options, especially for early game or free-to-play players. Mikasa can ignore debuffs and Asuna can apply bleed and deal guaranteed crits. Rem is a great choice for support. She's really easy to get early game and can provide a lot for any team. Her revive can be detrimental to fight against. She adds attack and crit and can purge debuffs. I recommend her for any free-to-play team. Rei is one of the best early game supports. She's mainly used for her attack buff, but she's a decent damage dealer and good healer as well. I feel Akame is an underrated. She's really good as a sub DPS. She lowers attack and her ability to cause charm and silence make her annoying to deal with. Beerus is a good option for a main DPS. His first turn stun is very powerful when it procs. Beerus isn't higher on the list because his abilities rely on him being the main DPS when there are better options for the investment. Tsunade is a very unique support. Anytime your team deals a crit they get healed, and seeing how important it is for your DPS to crit, Tsunade will work very well for them. Kirito can be a great DPS option but his pull rate is much lower than Akame and Asuna and his kit isn't that much better. He can be great on a bleed team, but there are better options for other teams. Ichigo is a great option for DPS early game. He deals great damage with a good crit rate and can even lower the crit rate of the opponents. The problem is the team around him doesn't work as well as teams like Asuna or Akame's. There are better options for what you would use him for. Saitama is in a similar situation as Ichigo, being a great early DPS. He tries to play the role of crowd control as a damage, which can be a good addition. But I feel it's better to run a CC unit and have your DPS focus on dealing damage. Saitama also is outclassed by Mikasa in a science team. Jotaro is similar to Artoria in the sense that he can counterattack. He can also stun warrior units, making him a great counter to popular teams. Jotaro can be a good character to build, but he shouldn't take priority over building your main DPS and support. Miku is useful for her revive and attack buff, but there are better options at support. Homura can be a decent option at support. She can increase your unit's attack and debuff the opponents. But there are better options at support who are much easier to build. Shayna has a lot of utility as well as damage. She can shield all allies and can lower crit, but for what she does there are better options. It also doesn't help that she's a core unit, making it harder to build her. Meliodas and Arthas both play a filler role in curse teams. A curse team is really good late game, and neither of these two are late game characters. If you have a strong curse unit like Goku, Orochi or Ains, either of these two can be filled in to support them. I wouldn't recommend building them. Akuma has a free revive and can cause bleed when attacked. He's a good option early game for a bleed team. Athena can cause armor penetration, which is a good ability, and can increase friendly units' attack. Tanjiro is useful early game for his healing down and revive ban, and he can also cause bind. The problem is he doesn't have an exclusive weapon, making him obsolete late game. Marissa is very similar to Esdeath, being a crowd control unit. I would consider her a placeholder unit. Maple can cause taunt, one of the better abilities in the game, but she doesn't do much else. Angemon can be interesting with his ability to prevent a unit from being healed. Heen and Kakashi can be good fillers on a bleed team, but being mage units they won't be benefiting from some of the buffs your main units would be getting. The rest of the list don't really have any interesting abilities, and should just be used as food.